This is the second devlog of the series about my game, Slaughter Cats, a 1 to 4 player side-scrolling beat-em-up platformer. After finishing my last devlog, I continued to work on the 4th level of my game. The 4th level takes place in the second area of my game, which is a vaguely Japanese environment. The level starts in a bamboo area with bamboo in the background, but the playable area was a bit bland, so I wanted to add a more immersive feeling to it and make the environment a bit more interesting. So I went about adding bamboo to the foreground area as well. I had experimented a bit with this before, but the bamboo I'd used didn't look great. I'm pretty happy with how this latest update has turned out, although I'll probably come back and revise it more as I continue with dev and testing. One issue that had bugged me for a while now was the animals would just rotate when they turn, and it looked pretty janky and not all that good. So I went about trying to fix this issue. I added in a process whereby when the animal was told to move to a different location, the AI task blueprint would run a rotate animation prior to the process of moving to that location. I spent a long time trying to get this to work initially, as I was trying to get it to work through the anim graph, but after not managing to get it to work properly, I settled for just using the event graph as I managed to find a working solution with it. I keep looping the animation until the rotation of the animal mesh is close enough to the direction the animal mesh has to go in. I got it working to a reasonable standard. I'm kinda happy with it for the time being, but may come back to it in the future to refine it a little bit more. I will have to work on the wolf stopping distance in the future, as they're getting a bit too close at the moment when they attack. I decided also to remove the health bars as default from the enemies, but give the option for the player to turn them on if they wanted. I felt that especially when there's many enemies on screen, the enemy health bars were very cluttered and could be a bit distracting. One thing which I wanted for the blood and gore system for my game was to add blood to the characters, as currently there is lots of blood effects which happen close to the characters, and decals which affect the environment around the player, but no effects which actually stay on the character, and this is one area which I thought was kind of lacking, as there was so much blood generally, but the characters don't get any blood on them. I had been experimenting with trying to add blood to the characters for well over a year, but was never really happy with the results. I tried many methods, including adding decals to the characters, attaching them to the bones, and while this did work, the decals would often affect anything which was close enough to the decal. It would also move with the bone that it was assigned to, which would often mean it would move around during certain animations. After experimenting with a plugin from the marketplace, I managed to come up with a solution which I thought wasn't bad. It still needs some more development, but even at this stage I think it works well with the existing systems in place, and looks good within the game. Another issue I had was when the enemies were being kicked, they were often being propelled in a direction which was unnatural and unrealistic given the kick. This was due to the force being applied based on the hit normal of the kick. While I didn't want to completely ignore the hit normal, I wanted to take into account the direction of the attacker and place a higher weight on the direction of the attacker is facing. So in the example, you can see the black signifies the hit normal, the red signifies the direction the attacker is facing, and the green is the result weighted to favour the attacker's direction by 70%. I'm happy with the results, as the kick direction seems a lot more realistic, although there's still a couple of small issues which I'll come back and revisit later on. I started to do some more testing over Steam, as I hadn't tested it too much already, and knew there was a ton of issues which would need to be fixed for the online side of things. I immediately noticed that some of the character types were glitching on the client. After quite a few hours of testing, I managed to narrow it down to the smaller enemy types, and the fact that I was adjusting the mesh's local position, and that this wasn't being replicated properly to the clients. I experimented a bit, but was unable to come up with a solution, and after a fair bit of searching online, I figured out the problem was due to how network smoothing works in Unreal. And I came across a solution which involved updating the cache on the client side by running the blueprint node cache initial mesh offset. This fixed the issue immediately, and I was super happy I managed to resolve the bug in only a few hours, as sometimes stuff like this can take days to figure out. Another issue I'd noticed while trying to fix the glitching rabbits was the animals weren't ragdolling properly on the client side. I looked through my blueprint code for quite a while and really wasn't sure what the issue was, as this only seemed to be happening for the animals. I played around a bit with the physics assets, but nothing seemed to fix the issue. After going over the blueprints again, I remembered that about 80% of the issues I've encountered with networking are due to variables not being replicated, and then I remembered that the animals use a specific variable to set which bone on the skeletal mesh is the parent for ragdolling. After setting this variable to be replicated, it instantly fixed the problem, and the animals started ragdolling on the clients. I did a ton of other small fixes, but that's been pretty much all the main updates. If you like the game, then please wishlist the game on Steam, the link's in the description.